If your IELTS speaking score has been stuck for a while, I want to tell you something I think a lot of people miss. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I've been exactly where you are. I took my first IELTS back in the summer of my sophomore year and I got a 6.5 in speaking. And at that point, I was doing all the things you are probably doing right now, building out vocabularies, memorizing examples, practicing common topics until I felt smooth. And I genuinely believe I was on the right track. But my score wasn't really reflecting the work I was putting in, and I couldn't figure out why. Now, 3 years later, after teaching IELTS for almost 2 years and also getting a Band 8 in speaking myself, I can tell you that the pattern I see again and again is the exact same mistake I was making back then. Well, your English is probably fine. The issue is that you've been practicing the wrong skill without realizing it. Because IELTS speaking is not really testing whether you can deliver something you've already prepared. What it's actually testing is, can you hear a question, process it in the moment, and respond naturally, directly, like a real conversation? And that is a completely different skill from sitting at home polishing answers to common topics. And here is something you might recognize. You're in the test. The examiner asks you something. It's honestly not even a hard question. But instead of just answering, your brain suddenly goes into some sort of search mode. You're scanning your memory for an answer you practiced that might fit in the question. And you might not even realize you're doing it, but the moment you can't find the right thing, you start to panic. And that is when the long pause comes in. Not because the question is so difficult, but because you are no longer responding naturally. You're stuck trying to remember something prepared, and the more you search, the harder it becomes to say anything at all. And the examiner can actually hear this very quickly. Because in real life, it's actually very hard to make a memorized answer sound fully natural from the beginning to the end. And most people can actually remember the opening or a few good phrases, but once they try to keep it going, things start to fall apart. For example, the wording becomes less natural and the connection to the question gets weaker. And that is exactly where a lot of speaking score gets stuck. Because once your answer starts sounding like a performance, you lose the thing IELTS is really trying to measure, which is your ability to respond in real time, to stay connected to the question, and to sound like a person who is genuinely communicating. And I know this because I used to do the exact same thing. When I was preparing, I thought I was being efficient. I thought the smart approach was to build up as much materials as possible, polish it, and make sure I always had something ready to say. But in the real test, that strategy started working against me. Because the more attached I was to what I've already prepared, the less present I was with the actual question in front of me. I wasn't really listening anymore. I was matching, searching, and trying to force the question into something familiar. And that experience has shaped the way I teach speaking ever since, because I've never believed that students simply need more model answers pushed into their heads. What they really need is the ability to face unexpected questions, stay steady, and also still have something ready to say. That is what I train my students to do. Not memorize, not perform, just respond, build ideas in real time, and keep going even when questions catches you off guard. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I've got it, but I don't know how to actually build that skill on my own, honestly, that's pretty normal. Because the hardest part about speaking is that you can't always hear where it's going wrong with you. And that's exactly what I do in my one-on-one sessions. I figure out where you're actually getting stuck, and we work on that. Not the same generic course, not the same material for everyone, just a plan built around you. I have over 600 hours of teaching so far, and more than 80% of my students have hit 6.5 or even higher. So feel free to reach out, and I'll see you in my next one.